Okay, if everybody would please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. The next item of business is establish a quorum. We have everybody here tonight. Has everybody had a chance to approve the minutes from the January meeting or review the minutes? This time, if there's no changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I was approved. Second motion.
Okay, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item of business is to swear in anybody that plans on speaking at tonight's meeting. Would they please stand and Gary will swear you in. So anybody that plans on speaking tonight.
I'll make that the question. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth, so help you God? Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gary. We've got two items of business tonight. The first one is a variance of a development standards to exceed the maximum height allowed in the residential 1 R1 zoning district on property located at 541 McIntosh Lane.
Okay, so what you have in your packet is a case summary, just giving you the description of the use for the development standards variance that's being requested. There is also a sketch in your packet showing you where the building is going to be located, and there's also a sketch of the building that's going to be constructed. They're asking for a variance of the height, and they exceed by 1 foot, and that is the mean height. And just to let you know, the town is looking at redoing their ordinance, and this is probably one of the things that's going to change. I don't know if we'll change it from the mean height or the peak, but it is going to change because we seem to have a lot of this variance requests. So, Mr. Long, if you would like to add anything to that, you're more than welcome.
Sure. All this detail's kind of in there, but essentially I'm just building a full barn on my property to use for storage purposes. Basically, I want to build a workshop in there and have some lofted storage. And as a taller guy, looking for a little ceiling clearance is really all I'm not looking for there. I sit, as you can maybe see if you look at the plot plan there, I sit on 8.5 acres of wooded property. The building's going to be at least 100 to, I think 120 was the shortest distance feet from either of my lot lines. On that back lot line is another 5-acre wooded parcel between me and the next house. It'll sit between mature trees. I'm going to do it in brick. I'm going to do it in kind of earth tone colors that shouldn't be obnoxious at all. Should be pretty subtle in there is the plan. I have to look at it every day, so I want it to look nice. So happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Do they have someplace to store your toys?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Is that drawing, or is it going to have a taller door? You talked about a motor coach, and looking at those doors, that doesn't look like.
12-foot doors, I think, so it should be enough to accommodate it and get it in. And then the idea is to be able to get on top of it and work and have a little bit of room if I need to inside. So. The conversation with my builder was that 12 doors would accommodate pretty much anything. So.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Long? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll open it to the public for any comments from the public on this matter. At this time, I'll close the public part of the meeting and open for discussion amongst the group here. Any questions or comments? This time, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Corey Long, petitioner, and BZA petition 2022-2098 to allow an accessory structure to have an increased height of 16 feet. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variance under state law for the following reasons. 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community for the reasons stated in the proposed findings of fact, petitioner's proposed findings of fact. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of facts. 3, the strict applications of the terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in practical,
No.
will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property or the stated petitioner's proposed findings of fact, and I move that this approval be made through no conditions.
At this time, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you very much. Gary, if you would, please.
He's down here.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize, Gary, I didn't realize you down.
That's good to know. So you have a motion and a second?
Yes, we did, Gary, if you would, please.
A roll call vote, Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Chussy?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson? Aye. Ms. Howard? I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Is there further decision of this body that this variance petition is approved subject to the conditions made part of the adopted motion, which there were none? Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Is that all you guys need from me? Okay, thank you so much.
Once the
You
findings.
get a
of
bill, I
fact
want to see it.
Okay, you guys are welcome anytime. So like I said, just let me know.
when the findings of fact are signed, I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay, perfect. And then
Right.
at that point, I'll have my permit and I can go forward. Is that how that works? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank
Go ahead.
you.
Okay, the next item of business is a public hearing, a use variance to allow plumbing business in the central business secondary CBS zoning district on property located at 145 East Main Street. Before we get started, then, are you planning on speaking?
I don't know yet.
Well, if you think about it, we'll just go ahead and get you sworn in
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
If you would, Gary, please.
Swear to tell all the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. Please.
Okay, this request is for a use variance to allow a plumbing business within the CBS zoning district, which is currently not allowed. I have included in your packet the case summary, along with an aerial view of the property. It is an existing piece of property, and so, to my knowledge, there's nothing, no additions or anything being proposed. The variance is simply for the use to allow a plumbing business in the CBS zoning district. And I believe Mr. Kopp has representation.
Yes, thank you. My name is Dale Coffey, I'm an attorney from Martinsville, here tonight representing Michael Cupp. He is the applicant. Mr. Cupp purchased the property in October of 2021 and has begun doing some historic renovations to that. You can see that just driving by. The idea is to try to take it back physically to a condition it was many years ago when it operated as a gas station auto repair type business. Of course, it's been vacant for a number of years. I think possibly the most recent use was just storage for the Dairy Queen, I believe. But other than that, I'm not sure how long it's been vacant, for quite a while. Mr. Cupp treasures old buildings and believes in historic renovation. Through his plumbing business, he's done several types of historic renovations or participated in work on those. And so would like to put it back again historically so that it is a neat property that we think will add much to the downtown here in Danville. What he is requesting of this is he would like to place his plumbing business there at that location. He believes that it's suited for his plumbing business in that he has 2 large bays there with the building currently, and that would be some storage for plumbing supplies. It would all be inside storage, there would not be any outside storage. And then also he would have an office space there for his office work as far as plumbing is concerned. He's reviewed the staff's recommendations and has no problems at all with those recommendations. That would be that there would be no outside storage of materials, that any parking of commercial vehicles would be in the back of the property, the rear of the property. He does plan on landscaping, has no problem with submitting a plan to the staff for their approval. The restriping of the parking lot so you can have designated parking locations, has no problem with that at all. And then, of course, as far as the signage, lighting, those sorts of things, work with the staff and be in compliance with whatever the ordinance currently calls for. So that's no problem with that. Really, again, likes the historic nature of the property, the building. Wants to become a part of downtown Danville with this business. And so that's why he's asking for the variance. In reviewing your ordinance, I didn't see where it specifically stated what district the use of a plumbing store would be in. So I don't believe there is a designation about a plumbing store in it. We feel like that this would fall in lines with a hardware store, that type of business. Although I will say that that type of business, hardware store, those kinds of things, would most likely generate more traffic, foot traffic in and out the door than what his business would. Because again, it's going to be a location where he'll have a plumbing supply store inside, he'll have his office there, but obviously be operating at various locations throughout central Indiana, going to people's homes, working on job sites, not of course there at this location. And again, wants to just be part of the downtown community. We feel like that this will add to the downtown community, it'll add to the adjacent properties. We don't see anything that this would do to the detriment of the adjoining properties. If anything, you have a building that's been dilapidated state for a number of years, that's going to be brought back to life. And in a really nice fashion that, again, will go to where it was. I believe it was built in 1920, I believe. So, 100 years old building. And again, we'd like to restore it back and bring it back to life. So he's here with me tonight to answer any questions that you folks may have, and certainly I'm free to answer any questions you may have as well.
Any questions? I have for Lisa. The design review committee, are they going to be looking at what the building is going to look like when it's finished? Or?
They will be, if he makes any changes to the exterior of the facade of that building, which technically he has. I mean, paint is not generally something that they look at, but any changes made to that building, he will have to file through the design review and file
So
an
if it's left the
application.
way it is right now?
If he doesn't change doors, windows, or do anything like that, then he would not have to go.
Where's your storage now?
My, it's in Brownsburg, I rent a facility out there.
You worked on our old house last year. The young man that worked on it, he had to get a new water heater. We were really pleased with the work you guys did.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I guess I got a question driving by there, and I one day doesn't make it, but like today when I drove by there, how do you, there's no vehicle parking in front, but yet how are you gonna get stuff in and out of the building with 2 garage doors there? And then also, it was kind of concerning that, there was a car backed in there today up on a jack and stuff like that, and I guess that would concern me. Yeah, on the east door, west door.
Because I didn't have anything on the jack.
Yeah, when I went by, there was.
So we don't even have a jack on the premises. What we were doing today is that you guys are having a downtown celebration of the St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. So I got a couple vehicles like that Mustang that's out there that is very appealing to a lot of people. And that was something, and I'm planning on doing it as well for the first Friday of every month, the little car show downtown, where I'll have some of my close personal friends bring their vehicles they've worked on and go to the park and showcase their vehicles out in front. So with the St. Patty's Day celebration, I had a guy that does all the details on my vans and stuff like that, and he came and detailed the red car and was cleaning up the tires or anything like that, but there'll be no automotive work.
What about you parking vehicles to load and unload and stuff like that?
We actually, half the garage we're going to use for storage. When I say storage, I'm talking about, like if you had us do a custom bathroom for you, sometimes the faucets are 6 to 8 weeks out. I will order the faucets and put them in there on a shelf. The biggest item that might be in our storage would be a water heater. So we're not going to have anything really huge or anything like that. So just like fixtures, toilets, faucets, and water heaters, about the only thing that we need for already sold jobs. So one half is just going to have shelves to store the fixtures on. The other half of the garage, the closest bay to the office, we're putting a table similar to this with a TV, dry erase board, and stuff like that, just for our Monday morning meetings. So, and then everything, I'm putting a double door on the back, if approved, on the back of it, so that everything could fit in through it. 36-inch door.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
So if someone's building a house and they're gonna build, pick out fixtures for that, will they come here?
No, I have a lady that I recommend that I've worked with exclusively for 15 years. And she has a showroom with everything set up at that.
So you're not anticipating a lot of
No, not at all, but you always get drive-bys, and, I already get people that stop by and ask questions or whatever, so.
Is your business in Brownsburg in a restored building?
No, it's in one of the race car warehouse districts.
What the other buildings that you restored, where are those and what was it?
They're all historic homes. It is basically what they're in. We 1890 is one we're working on now. Another one 1888 that we're working on now. Not ever a historic garage or gas station or whatever. We do a ton of renovations. We probably got 7 or 9 jobs we do in progress alone on historic homes. So we like to think that Cut My Plumber's a little different. We're not trying to compete with all the other guys because we're probably the only company that still works with copper, and we still do things kind of old-fashioned ways. And we changed the faucet out on the Clawfoot tub, which a lot of the skill sets of the next generation plumbers are not familiar with that kind of work. So we love galvanizing, cast, and copper and stuff. So that's kind of our thing that we do.
I did have another question. Before you bought the property and you were, I would suppose, already planning to have a plumbing business there when you bought it, did you know at that time that it wasn't zoned for that business?
Not particularly, because I had a place on Broadway for 10 years. Several years ago that we were allowed to get sold. I thought there would be some way to, and if I wanted to part property regardless. I've always been in love with that property since my dad took me to Dairy Queen since I was 8 years old. So I knew it was a good investment because I do have some old cars or something like that, and just for storage of the cars and fix the place up, I would have been more than happy just to do that. So if the plumbing company didn't go, then we'd go somewhere else. But I really, I admire, it's a historic landmark. I mean, it's just, I got a true passion for that building, and it's what I've always wanted.
Well, I know since I've lived in this town, I've moved over here in '74, I don't remember anything ever being in there, other than use of Dairy Queen. But I've got mixed emotions about this one because, number one, it's not allowed in that central business secondary business. And number two, that whole block has been targeted by the redevelopment commission. They've already bought some properties in there for revitalization of that whole block. And this would, if we allow this to go in, would greatly reduce what they can do in there. So I'm thinking I have no problem with you having a plumbing business in town, not at all. But I'm not sure that's the place it needs to be. So.
I guess my response to that, redevelopment commission and revitalization, to me, would mean that you want to restore, you want to bring back, you want to engage history. And that's what Mr. Cup is planning on doing with that property, is bring it back to life historically as it was. I would think that that would fit in with a redevelopment type use of that area. I understand if the thought was to tear it down and then build something new, certainly I don't see how that adds to the downtown historic town.
Well, I don't know what they have planned to build in there. It might be something in the order of what they built down in Plainfield or up in Brownsburg, all on a smaller scale, but I don't know.
Is this a firm commitment? Do we know that this is gonna happen?
Well, all I know is that they bought properties in there. They own the new properties just east of it. They've already talked to the Bread Basket and they've talked to the doctor's office.
Who are they?
I don't know who's on that redevelopment commission.
Are you asking who is on the redevelopment commission?
Two of us.
Linda Monk, Ben Comer, Barry Aiken, Tracy Schaefer, David Glover. Who am I missing?
Ben Lester, Ben Lester.
Greg Van Leer.
So they don't know if they've got a firm commitment, if they're gonna do this?
Well, you know, they bid on this.
I mean,
And he outbid them. I do know that.
Well, I know they bought that apartment complex on the Speedway, that old house that's been going on.
Across from the Speedway. To the west, yeah, they own both of those.
No, they just bought it. So this is part of the property that they're gonna develop?
The,
You want me to weigh in on behalf of the RDC?
Let's wait to do that, Ben, at the public part of the meeting, okay?
Good idea.
To make a comment on that, State. Sure. I spoke to a couple, the town manager and her one day sitting here, and I told him, I said, my voice is going, but I told him, I said, I asked him if they ever went to Madison. He said he went to high school there. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys ever been to Madison, Indiana. We're planning on going down there next weekend for state, but it's the largest historic downtown district in the United States, 133 square blocks. And to buy a place down there, I mean, something run down, it's like $240,000 with no yard, a little shotgun house or whatever, with the windows boarded up. But you have to go and get permission, what color you paint, and what kind of, I mean, everything has to have its historic value to it. The way I look at Danville, because I've been here, my grandparents bought a farm here in 47. My dad went to school in this building, I went to school in this building. I mean, that's just where our heritage is at, and to own a property like that downtown, it's just means huge to me. But I want Danville to focus, like Madison, more on its historic values and roots of Center Township and the capital of Inner County in the courthouses. I want all that focus to be on the historic thing and not level everything and make it look like downtown Plainfield or Brownsburg. If people want downtown Plainfield and Brownsburg, then they can move, you know, but as far as the downtown district of Danville, I mean, just leave it alone and let this be stricter on it. You know, control what colors they're painting their house and stuff and putting the wood trim and make it for people to come down this Mayberry Festival. Because this is a town I wrote on Facebook that people dream and write about. And it is. I mean, people would do anything to be here. There's just a ton of people just waiting to get the opportunity to move into our town. And I don't want to sit there and go and destroy this beautiful downtown district and put up all these 4-story parking garages and retail spaces you can't even rent out and fill, and 3-story apartments above. Plus with the traffic problems we have already. Sorry. Well, he told me not to talk. I'm very, very passionate about Danville. I love it here.
We all know you might.
and if I could add
Yeah,
something
please.
to that, Danville wants to maintain and retain the historical value of the town center. One example of that is the new building that's going in on the corner of Main and Jefferson. lot of work went into the design of that building. They had to go through design review. There were a lot of architectural features that they had to commit to. So I don't think the question here is maintaining the historical value of Danville at all. It's the use of.
Can I ask two questions, and this might be something that we address during the public part of it. What would the redevelopment commission do with that building, number one? Would they destroy it? Would be, I think, a valid question. And where is a plumbing business supposed to, if that's true, what's been said, where is a plumbing business in the town of Danville supposed to locate?
A plumbing business would be located in more of a light industrial area, where they would be permitted to have outdoor
So the only
storage.
place is the industrial part east of town?
There's other industrial places here in town.
So that's not really a true statement, there's not, and that's part of the finding of facts in here, that there's no place really zoned for it, if I read that
Right, I mean,
correctly.
if you look at the zoning map, there are other areas in town that are zoned for industrial, or light industrial.
Sorry to interrupt, my statement meant to say, if you look at the actual uses, like designated, a shoe store, plumbing, or a hardware store like that, I didn't find anything, and I stand corrected, there's not, but I didn't find anything that said plumbing. So
There isn't, we can't list every single
Right,
use
okay.
in the ordinance, that's very unfortunate for staff a lot of times, because we have to go through and.
So it's true, but it's by definition, you can't list everything.
Right,
Okay.
right.
think
I
the
mean, if you
caveat
look
is-
at comparable uses, and if you look at some of the comparable uses that are in the industrial district, that's where,
I think the caveat is, at the very end of it, it says any other similar uses.
exactly, and it does state that,
No,
right? And, yeah, I understand that, it makes our job difficult when somebody calls in and they say, well, can we do this, then we have to go through and try to figure out where it would be best. Good.
In comparison, and you said you've been here a long time, since 1974, it's ironic because that garage, the last service records in there is 1973, so he just missed it. I know Danville Heat and Cool was on the Danville Square for several years.
50 years.
Yeah, and they just had that little storefront and then they had a little dock in the back and stuff like that. And the HVAC carries a lot more stuff than I would ever dream of with the AC units and all the furnaces and 80%, 90%, 96%, 98%. And they got so many different things that they have to stock and maintain in there. But I never heard or seen any trouble out of Danville Heat and Cool, but in comparison of what kind of traffic that you would see, I think that would be a pretty similar space that or comparison to what my plumber would bring, except for parking. Had problems with parking. And heat and cool.
I got a big parking lot in the back.
So,
Well, and the heat and cool was grandfathered.
Yes,
It was
yes.
Put in before, well, this ordinance was adopted in 91, and so it was done prior, during a prior ordinance, so it's grandfathered.
Yeah, but I was just mentioning I wasn't trying to say they were zoned or not
Right,
zoned
but
and stuff
I
like
want to
that.
make sure, yes, they were permitted, but as a grandfathered situation.
And I think in zoning with industrial that you have to produce or manufacture a product. And we don't produce or manufacture anything. So that would be another thing that might not fall me under the industrial park type thing.
Any other questions for Mr. Cup or Mr. Coffey?
If the waiver would not be approved, what would you do with that building?
Probably, I don't know, like,
Probably not a fair question.
no, I mean, I'm not letting the kid go to the building, so I'll do something with the building, so.
I just don't have a problem with restoring something like that on Main Street. I really don't.
Yes,
It's like
rehabbing that building and bringing it back to its historical nature is not an issue.
the
Right,
theater's
that's
been
not
there
the
100
issue, it's the
years.
use, it's the
Yeah.
type of use.
But, it's not like, I don't see him having a bunch of people coming in on occupying stuff. It's gonna be mainly, you know, running the business, basically. If he keeps it up, like the things that we put on the conditions, I think it's, I don't
And
have a problem.
that's what.
But I come from, you know, we had a historical home for 35 years.
Right,
And we
right.
restored it. Luckily, we sold it to our daughter and son-in-law. And the people said, why don't you sell it? We turned it, you know, we'll turn it into law. I said, we don't want that. So I come at this,
Yeah.
you know, the same way he does.
Well, and like I said, you know, bringing the building back to its historical nature is
I
not,
kind of like
It's
the
not
way the
what's in
building looks
question.
right now, the way they cleaned it up.
You're not really looking for walking traffic, are you? I mean, by public, because you can't compete with the big box stores with loading stuff,
No.
buy it by the thousands.
Yeah, no. We're just looking for a place to answer the phone and store.
Because you wouldn't have a big enough building to stock all the
Right.
different sizes and stuff that people want, you know.
And all our
I understand
employees
that.
are dispatched from their homes. The only time that they'll be there is on Monday morning. We have a short, brief, 30-minute meeting, and that gives them a chance to turn in their invoices and time cards and checks and paperwork from the previous week. And other than that, the rest of the week, they're all dispatched straight from their houses, and then they go straight home from their houses, or from their last call. So there's not going to be a lot of employee traffic in there as well.
They take their trucks home at night? or-
Yes.
Okay. And any trucks that aren't taken home, would you be all right with them being parked in back?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's, I'm losing money if there's a van parked out back there. It needs to be on the road.
So all of these staff recommendations, you don't have a problem.
No, not at all.
can I ask another question?
Yes, please.
So how many employees are we talking about? So if you have a meeting on Monday morning, how many vehicles would you anticipate?
I currently
you
own
accommodate
8 vans.
And when they come in, they will be parking in the back.
Absolutely.
And space allowed, I guess, for that part area. That's what you're probably said.
That's why I'm asking.
So, Lisa, with the conditions that you put in the case summary, and a lot of times there's a recommendation or something like that. I mean, what's within the town building here? What is the thought? Unfair question, if so, say so and I'm done.
Okay, well, the town, I'll speak for myself, okay, because I can't speak for anyone else. I feel like that this location is not the appropriate place for a plumbing contractor. If the Board of Zoning Appeals determines that it is, these are the minimum conditions that I would like to see as part of the approval.
Did you leave some conditions out that you would like to see?
None that I can think of right now. I mean, I think that it does concern me that if his business grows, he's gonna have more employees. Where are they gonna go? I mean, it's obvious he's very emotional about this property, so I wouldn't see that he would want to necessarily relocate. So at that point, what happens, you know, with his additional employees, need for more storage and things of that nature.
I'm planning to currently keep my storage facility in Brownsburg, and also inquired about renting the other half of that storage as well. So with my landlord,
Did you have the building inspected to see what?
yes. I've got a structural engineer in there, and I got an architect engineer as well,
Okay.
and it's safe for occupancy.
It's pretty.
You took core samplings too, didn't you?
No.
Somebody did
It was something in the
recently.
I think that was done on the apartment property next to it.
Was it? Because I know that for years there was problems, because it's been an old filling station.
There've been several on that block. So,
Where the beehive is kind of the end.
Right. You had a filling station there and one across the street.
Yeah.
don't wake up.
The RDC's looked into that already, Tony. IDM and states.
Well, they tested something on mine and it passed in order for me to close on it. So
Any other questions?
So if one of your vans Just gets on the job and needs parts and stuff, he goes to your store in Brownsburg and gets them.
Yeah, well, no, mostly supply house. I don't like to stock a lot of it.
Okay.
That's too much overhead.
Instead of,
Just special order stuff and then water heaters is about the only thing I stock.
okay,
So anything else there, Central is right here.
central supply.
Yeah, Central Supply, and then there's Win Nelson on the west side, and Lee Supply on the north and south side. 90% of the time, they go to one of the supply houses to pick up parts.
What's the square footage you got?
In there, I think it's like just shy of 1,800.
So what, that part of the garage part, and then the other part is gonna
The front half is going to be office, which will be 2 ladies that will work in there, and then my office. And that's basically, will be in the back part, and then the whole first bay is going to be a meeting area.
be, how are you gonna do the cinder block part of that building?
Have you ever, you know, the steel roofs or the tin roofs are really in? So the top, I'm going to do the steel roof on top, which would be,
The design review would probably have to.
yeah, I'll have something for sure. I'll follow the book. But it's going to be maroon, and then I'm going to have the same siding, 3/4 of the way down in desert turquoise, maroon garage doors, black windows, white trim. And you guys can see that my trucks, I'm pretty proud of my wrap. You were talking about my race car out there. I mean, it's with the evil Tin Man on the side or something like that. I'm very looks and appearances, everything to me. I'm not going to do anything to embarrass you guys for making a decision on that either. I promise you that.
Other thing I'll point out is if this is approved for a plumbing business, you're only permitted one use on a parcel. So if you propose to do another use on that parcel, you would have to come back before them.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Such as car detailing.
Restoring
Oh,
vehicles
yeah.
or something like that, right?
Would this change if this building abutted the sidewalk and didn't have a parking lot in front? And just, would this change the view of this if it was like heat and cool on a sidewalk versus a parking lot in front? And used like heat and cool did coming out the back door and stuff like that? I mean, it seems to me like maybe part of the issue is the what ifs with the front area of this building.
I think that if Heat and Cool were to come in today and request the same thing, we would have the same
Same issue.
opinion, right? Whether the building is on the, right up next to the road or.
Is there a timeline on developing that other property?
I think, yeah. Will give us some insight on that? No, I have some. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much, appreciate it. This time I'll open it up to the public part for comments, and would appreciate it, Ben, if you could share some details like questions for Tom that Tom has and stuff like that to the best of your ability.
Tommy, I agree. I have mixed feelings about this as well. And maybe an agreement can be reached. This is in an economic development area of the town that the RDC established. And it does need redevelopment. And I consider Mike's rehabbing of that building redevelopment. It doesn't have to be torn down and something else put back up in Bedco as a table to be rehabbed or redeveloped. I mean, that can serve as a redevelopment. It's not about the building itself. It's about how it's used and the appearance of the use that goes there. In the downtown area, we only have so many properties where retail is available. To do this as a contractor storage business uses up one of the properties that would be available in the central district for its intended purpose of retail and consumer use. That's where my hangup comes in. That's where my road rub comes. It's limited, very limited number of properties where in other parts of town, in the pseudo-industrial parks, in the flex space buildings, that's where these uses are supposed to be. Now, all that said, The conditions that Lisa put in the approval letter help a lot. They do make it more palatable to me. A couple of concerns would be, one, that enforcement-wise, if the conditions are not met, what happens if it turns into a parking lot for commercial trucks, which that's what it's been up to this point in time? And secondly, can we get a commitment that all the loading and unloading would be from the rear, which is what Heat and Cool was for many, many years. You couldn't tell it was a HVAC company because it was just a storefront, like any other storefront, and all their activity came out of the back, in and out of the back, and you couldn't tell. And if that's what this is going to be, and it can be enforced as such, I mean, it does make it a much more palpable situation. But yet, I mean, I don't want to beat around the bush or kid. Let's not pretend like the use is not a thing, because the use is a thing. That's why we're here, is because the use is a thing. If that building were an office or a, jewelry store or a delicatessen, a coffee house, any of those things that would be rehabbed for those purposes, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's the use itself and protecting the downtown image of it not being an industrial use. So if we can find a way to make that work, the RDC would be glad to see that property rehabilitated and redeveloped. You should not hang your hat or make any decision based on the fact on whether or not the RDC wants that property or not. Completely irrelevant. And it's not about that. It's not about us wanting that property. It's about making it a great property for Danville. One way or the other, it doesn't matter to us. But what does matter to us is how it looks and what does happen in that field lot. It can't be a parking lot for business trucks, period. I mean, if somebody's just dropping in to hand off a piece of paper, parking back, it's the image of that and the use of that property that's of critical importance based on where it's located in the town.
I think that would be the town's enforcement.
I have a question, Corey, and then in the long range of the redevelopment, if you were looking at that whole block.
Yep.
Had you had an envision how that block was going to look in any way, if you had that building too, and the rest of it?
I mean, not entirely, Tom. What would happen is eventually we bring in, it would be a private-public project. We would bring in a private developer to help us with that vision and develop it appropriately. Something like what happened on the Danner's lot is certainly not out of the question. The town just went through a comprehensive plan update. Like, it just got adopted. It's literally posted on the town site as the 2022 comprehensive plan. So, I mean, it is fresh off the press. And industrial is not contemplated in this area. It's a retail and apartment type downtown living, and how they correlate with one another between living downtown and getting the services you need downtown, the retail goods sales, and how those uses interact with one another. And nowhere is it contemplated for an industrial use in this area. And that's just a fact. Now, again, I'm not here to rain on Mr. Cup's parade. I mean, there may be a workable solution here, but that is a fact.
The reason I brought up the timeline, when Danner's was there, we had I don't know, Tommy, if you were on the BZA, we had a meeting, a variance meeting, that they were going to redo that building. And I remember it was John Battershell that did the architecture drawings and everything. Yeah. And so that fell through. I don't know how many years that building has sat there before they started building. So that's why I was asking the timeline. You guys are going to tear down this, apartment house building up there.
How long is that gonna sit in? I mean, is there,
It's not empty, it's the same use as it was.
I know, but I mean, if you tore it down, how long would it be before you developed? You know, that's what I'm.
We're not gonna tear it down until we know that answer.
So it's going, those properties are going to be maintained and occupied until such time as you have something concrete to.
So there's a project.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, yes, unless the thing falls down. You know, we lived with the Danners vacant lot for
Oh, I know.
several years, but I don't even know how many, 5 maybe? I don't know how long it was, really, time gets away from me. But, you know, the patience has resulted in what a lot of people feel is a great look for the downtown.
Oh, the district's gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
Well, then.
And again, it doesn't have to be that. The RDC is not saying it has to be that. We do want it redeveloped, and this can qualify as redevelopment in my mind, as long as it doesn't turn into, you know, what we fear it could, if it's not properly operated as the use. And the use itself does lend itself to something that wouldn't be ideal, but done properly, it could, probably would.
So probably the only walk-in traffic you're gonna have is be people maybe coming in and want your service to, you come out and look at it for a job to redo.
Yeah.
They won't be coming in to buy stuff.
What if the option is of taking out the garage doors so they're not used as entry and having everything done from the rear?
Is the
That's
garage
kind of where,
door-
I mean, you take away enforcement by doing that.
Yes.
And I think that is a critical part of it. If you don't have 2 garage doors up front, and you get permission to install a back door, you alleviate, I think, a lot of the problems. And that's, enforcement concerns me. It's, you can't do it. I mean, I just think it's almost impossible.
The one thing that I think that we could do is have a commitment recorded, but still you have that enforcement, you know, you still have to go through that process and everything. But I think that we would need a commitment that would be attached to this variance.
But wouldn't that be under the design review?
No, it could be a commitment that's done by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
But I mean, he would have to go to the design review.
If he does anything to that building, yes, he's gonna have to.
So I
go
mean,
to design
anything we
review.
said could be changed.
Just throwing out ideas, but as opposed to taking out the garage doors, and again, I'm just looking for appearance and historical purposes and things. Obviously, I haven't talked to my client about this, but just taking up on what the conversation's been here. What if those doors are made inoperational? And that can be verified by the town that they have been, so they can't be lifted up and down, okay? Again, just going back to the historical look, and that's, I know you can buy, you know, things that look like garage doors now, glass painted things, but again, going back to what's there and from a historic preservation idea, you may want to try to keep as closely as you can to what's there. And of course, the expense would also come in here. It's the newer products and probably pretty pricey. So I throw that out again. I haven't talked to Mr. Cup about that, but if that's on the lines of what the board would look at as a commitment, if we make them inoperational, they can be verified they are, so they cannot be lifted, then I think maybe you get the same thought that you have.
Are the doors already in the rear?
Yeah, yes, there is. The one 36-inch door on the exit. I planned
Oh,
on,
just one.
yeah, and I planned on cutting it down and making a double doors like you walk in here. You know?
Oh, okay.
So nothing, no garage door. I will not load in that mode from the front. So I mean, it's just, I run a tight ship. That's just city will happen.
Are you willing to make those doors inoperable?
I would like them operable. Not to use for loading or unloading, but I'd like to use them operable for, I mean, you go to like the popular restaurants and stuff now are making the whole entire wall garage doors that open up out to it. But, yeah, I'm not, you know, it's not gonna be used as a garage. I mean, period, it's not. And everything will be, I'm real strict on my employees, everything's out the back. I mean, you got my word on that.
But no, would you agree as part of the conditions they would be inoperable, period? I mean, Ben, and I'm asking Ben, would that be something that from redevelopment that you would be?
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say a different use, they're more of a retail or restaurant use, couldn't use those doors as a more, you know, as part of their use that would be more akin to this part of town, but as a contractor use, they should not be used facing 36, they just shouldn't. Yeah, they don't have to be taken out necessarily, we just, if you can envision through my eyes, just activity in and out through those doors would defeat the purpose of the look.
Did you think that heat cool business there on the square, did it detract from it?
No, it did not, it was a storefront, Tom, that's all it was a storefront, everything they did was to the back. And that's why, that's the whole point of why it was okay. It was just a storefront.
I think because he didn't really have a walk-in business.
You could walk in and buy a filter.
I mean, he didn't go and walk by it.
So I mean, the doors coming up and down, the only reason, I mean, it's not a good look. And I think we're getting a lot closer to what would be palpable to the RDC. I can let the other members of the RDC speak, because I don't want to dominate the conversation. But if you have anything to add?
You swear me that?
Yes,
I promise. Okay. I think that doing historical preservation is a wonderful, magnificent thing. So that being said, yes, did we have a thoughts to do the whole block? I wrote something out of paper, awful drawings, but you know, we've discussed things, absolutely, you know, brainstorm and all of that. But this came about, so we go from there. My question would be too, how willing would you, if this was approved and you're there, you'd be working with, you know, the RDC on if we develop, you know, the rest of the block? Because if that would be an inconvenience, you know, we're going through all of that. You have to look for the future for that. No, we don't know exactly what we want to do or what the timeline is, but we're trying to take it, you know, one logical step at a time. Also, all of the housing developments that have been approved, I think everyone is done with housing developments. As the RDC, it's our job to look at the tax base. We have to do that with businesses. We can't keep depending on homes. So, tax base, right there, there's a business, it's going to be a tax base. The rest of the block, another tax base. Other areas that we're looking at, other tax bases. We have to keep developing business tax base and balance it all. I think this also brings up another really, really good point. And I don't know how we accomplish that, but if there could be more communication between all of the groups so that we all know kind of what we're thinking and who's on what, who's doing what, who's thinking about what. We don't assume what you're doing and you don't assume what we're doing, that we can have this open communication. And I know there are sunshine laws, we gotta be really careful about, you know, how we communicate everything. But this is a really good example of how we can all work together to make this area wonderful. Yes, we want to develop the rest of that block. We've got other, people there that we do have to work with. But the RDC is very committed to looking at this whole area, and there's some other stuff in that area that I won't bring up right now, but we're looking at all of it, to improve all of it, to bring in the tax base. guys have?
Maybe none of you can say, but was there a plan for the Dairy Queen in that block development? And was it gonna stay or was it?
The Dairy Queen's a whole other animal.
Nope.
The building itself is not, super valuable, but the business itself is, so it really drives up the value. And so we would certainly, if we did a whole block redevelopment, we would approach them. This is the most I can say is we would approach them as being a stakeholder participant. Where that would go, I don't know.
Serving on both boards, the redevelopment commission, as stated by Linda, has a different focus, a different purpose, and roles and duties, and the BZA has different roles. And right now, the RDC has described to you what they've gone through in the last year and a half of working on plans for economic development areas and what they'd like to see. And the purpose of the BZA is the use variance that sits before it. And that's the use. And everything else is secondary for us to consider. It has to be the use. If it can be hampered by stipulations as recommended by staff, and that appeases to the members of the BZA, and we can still be operational, fine, but overall, the use is a question. And I tend myself that when I'm in this situation, I try and look for the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid, and focus on the issue at hand, which is the use.
I might make a suggestion. We certainly have talked about a lot of things this evening, and we've been here a while, but it stays on it takes. But my suggestion might be, if the board will entertain a continuance of this matter until your April meeting, that would give me and my client time to talk about some of the things that have been brought up here this evening. Might give me a chance to talk with Mr. Comer. So that would be a suggestion that I would make tonight, if we could ask for a 30-day continuance of this and come back at your April.
I certainly applaud Mr. Cupp's hiring of legal counsel. He's really gotten smarter over the years. Michael and I go way back.
So you can say that, right?
I can say that.
Lisa, is there any problem doing that?
I don't have a problem.
Do you have a problem with that?
Ben, what's your thought?
Well, it depends on what everybody's answer was going to be.
It's the right thing to do.
I think so too.
At this time, I'll close the public part of the meeting, okay? And I would put it before the board here to have a continuance of this to the April 16th. What's the date?
It is, I believe it is 16th.
16th?
No, it is,
20th.
I can tell you.
20th.
Motion to continue to April 20th at 5:00 p.m.
I have a motion. Do I got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah.
As far as the garage doors, Ben, and I can appreciate that and everything.
Thanks.
I don't, number one, I'm not very smart to finance it, because let's say this building's worth $800,000 in 10 years. Just for, if I leave the building like it is, it's worth $800,000. I'm projected to probably stick about $300,000 in that building. And in years, it's going to be worth $800,000. So that's just money I'm trying to get out. But the thing about the garage doors, the opening and closing, then operable or anything, look at what the town has looked at for 40 years. For 40 years, it's looked at that. And you know what? If I didn't purchase it, we'd still be looking at it. So I worked real hard, get Christmas tree lights up. I bought a big 80 channel thing for Christmas tree lights and motion and music and stuff for next year, to bring some in Halloween and bring some excitement to the downtown community. So as far as the operational garage doors are better, I mean, anything's would be better than what we have looked at for 40 years.
I want to thank everybody for their input. Ben, put you on the spot. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for suggestion. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Catherine. What's she in relation to you? You don't know, I've never even heard.
Who's that? Catherine.
Catherine. She's a member of our church.
Where did you go to school at?
Oh, I was in them.
Oh, okay.
Where I was. I'm a transplant.
Thank you.
So we do have other business.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure
Yeah, we
everyone's
do.
your
We're not
packets
done yet.
away.
Oh, I did, I forgot.
Lisa gave us a lot of things tonight.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Good job.
Just a word, say I won't be here at the next meeting. I'll be in Outer Banks playing golf. That was already known by the staff.
Other business, we've got amend the rules of procedure.
Right. So I've just spent the last, couple of weeks looking at the rules of procedure, trying to bring them up to date. As you can see, the things that I've highlighted in red are the changes. Strike through are the deletions. Most of them have to do with the changes that have occurred with the council meetings, or with all of the committees and commissions and boards changing the night of their meetings, and then of course the time, location of the town hall. We still had, I think, Main Street. Nope, it had Jefferson Street. And then the changes that we made to the ordinance regarding the certificate of mailing. We did require certified letters to be mailed out, and now we're just requiring certificate of mailing. And I think that's pretty much it.
You said there's highlighted items.
In red, so like this right here. So this is what we're taking out, and that's what we're adding.
Okay.
Just very basic, standard, changes, just to try to make sure the rules match what we're doing.
I wrote that one down.
The rules. That's been a long time.
I think I got examples from across the state.
Yeah.
I see that.
So this is just to bring it up to date. So what I'm going to ask is that if you accept these changes, I'll go back and make the changes, and then we can vote on them next month, if you'd like.
At this time, entertain a motion to accept the changes as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Okay, and then the very last thing that I have is electronic meeting policy. So the council, and I put a copy of the council's policy in here regarding meetings and, the whole thing. I don't know if you guys read through all of it, but it's basically just saying that you're going to allow so many meetings to be done electronically, like a member can miss so many. So if you accept this, we can make changes that fits the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So so we didn't have really authority to have Zoom meetings during the
We
pandemic?
did during the pandemic.
So that
But,
that supersedes this?
right, but this is just to make it permanent.
Okay.
So, in the future, if Tom wants to go to Florida for 3 months, and then he can video in, or I think what it says is up to 3 meetings. But I don't know.
I thought it was 4, but maybe.
It might be,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, that's basically what this does. So we can go in and make all the changes that reflect the Board of Zoning Appeals. And the question came up, I think it was Linda Sue Rumford at the Plan Commission meeting. She was asking, well, I would like to see it defined. It is actually defined in here, electronic meetings. So it is defined in this document.
Everybody okay with that? So you need a motion or just it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. And then I'll go through and make the changes and then put it in your packet for next month and then you can,
Consent.
yeah. Right. Okay, that is all I have.
I've got a question for you. Maybe you can't read fully what you read in the paper, I misunderstood. What's this about banners? Where they're gonna be that and
So,
that just kind of puzzles me a little bit, what's going on.
so what the town is doing is trying to find a way that we can create wayfinding, or maybe not wayfinding, but welcome to Danville. So there's a company that, I don't know if you know Madison Henderson, but she's our community engagement coordinator. So she reached out to this company. And what they do is they will go around and ask businesses if they would be willing to sponsor a banner. And then it would have something on the banner like welcome to Danville, whatever, and then it would be sponsored, their business name would be on there. So, and then it wouldn't cost Danville anything, it's all paid through the sponsorship. But upon recommendation by the attorney, that kind of gets a little hairy, because then you're looking, then it's called an off-premise sign.
That's what I was, I mean, I think of the
So-
people we've turned down for
Yes,
signs, I'm
yes.
thinking, and
So
you're allowed this?
we've nixed that.
So it's over?
Madison's gonna go back and talk to this company
Okay.
and see if there is another way that we can do it, because the company takes care of everything.
No, I understand.
They, you know, the town doesn't have to do anything.
The
And we may
business
not
is
be
paying
willing
that
to-
company, but yet,
Right,
what my concern when I just read in the paper was signage in wherever for businesses.
No.
And we, how many people who come before and
no,
turn down
that is
and.
not gonna be the case.
We've got a wayfinding sign in the park, we've got a wayfinding sign out here, and we had a whole plan for wayfinding signs, but it was so damn costly.
It is very
So
costly.
you, I mean, this is a good way to pass the cost
Right,
to a business, I mean, I get that,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
you've seen the wayfinding signs in Plainfield, Rockford, right?
Mhm.
they incur that cost themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they
It's just-
have money, it's, you know.
If BZA had a budget, we could buy it, but
And then that's, Tom asked, but then where would you be placing those at? Just on
There were
highway?
different locations, Madison had selected different locations, like
We can't put banners across 36.
not across, not
Across.
perpendicular. But these signs would be on maybe light poles or something like that.
But you could have one in a residential area possibly.
I don't think.
No, I'm just saying that, I was
Yeah.
just really concerned when I read that with,
But
being
that
on
was
this-
the concern, is does that qualify as an off-premise sign?
I-
And it technically
I
it
think you're
does.
worried about the proliferation of signs appearing all over.
You can't use that area down there with the Fidelity, I mean,
Well, that's another,
that's on state.
I disagree.
yeah, well, NDOT's saying that we can't.
Yeah,
town,
take me-
NDOT and the town doesn't get along.
Oh, okay, we'll hook you up.
Is the town and the NDOT still like this?
Not really, I mean, they've got a new person, and he seems to be reaching out more and trying to communicate with us.
I saw them fixing potholes.
Did you? Yeah.
On Main
So I
Street.
think that, you know, we're on the road to trying to develop a relationship, but, yeah,
When 36
that we still have issues.
ended up there, the Main Street made in 4-lane in that intersection. The cul-de-sac known as Fidelity Capital Way, that street, and going up into that hillside, which was
The old
state
road.
highway.
It was a state highway, yes.
They signed off on all that to the town, so they wouldn't have to maintain it.
But they never, was it all dedicated to the town though? Was it all transferred over to the town?
The state is supposed to take care of all that during the construction plans.
Because the old highway ran up that hill.
I know, I traveled that all the time,
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Used to be pretty.
It was, it really was, yeah. Yeah. But that's all I
Things
have.
change.
Thanks for your.
Did we adjourn?
I have.
No, we haven't adjourned.
Is that it?
We're not, we didn't adjourn
this time I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Gary, I think you're gonna have to sign your name before you go there.
Okay.
You're in a hurry.
Promissory note.